My name is Leslie. Standing in the empty shell of what was once my apartment, I'm surrounded by the aftermath of a battle I never wanted to fight. The new owner's words, "feels like peace," still ring in my ears. It's a bittersweet truth, as I finally found the closure I so desperately needed. But how did I get here? Let me take you back. I come from a well-to-do family in a small, tight-knit community. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, are pillars of the local church. My father is a respected businessman, always concerned with appearances and maintaining a good reputation in the community. My mother is a socialite, more focused on what others think than on the feelings of her own daughters. My younger sister, Lily, is 25 years old, a spoiled and naive girl who has always gotten whatever she wanted. It all started at Lily's baby shower. The room was filled with pink balloons, custom-made cupcakes, and champagne flutes. I was standing in the corner, holding the diaper cake I'd bought with my hard-earned money. Lily was giggling under the fairy lights, looking like a princess. My mother clinked her glass and raised it. "To our princess and her new home," she said with a big grin. Everyone clapped, but I just stood there, cold and numb. That new home was my apartment, the one I'd spent years renovating and furnishing. My father then stood up and pulled out a glossy folder, as if it was some kind of magic trick. "Here's the deed, all signed and transferred," he said. I felt my hands go cold and my throat dry. I looked around the room, and no one seemed confused except me. No one said a word about the fact that it was my home. Lily beamed and said, "I can't believe you guys did this for me." And my mother winked at me and said, "Your sister's been through a lot. You're doing well, so you can afford to share." Share? I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. The humiliation was so deep that it felt like it was squeezing the life out of me. So, I just smiled, placed the diaper cake on the table, and left without making a scene. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I started counting the appliances. I remembered all the work I'd put into that place, wiring the walls, installing the shelves, and putting up every ceiling fan. By 6 a.m. The next morning, every single thing I'd bought and installed was gone. The fridge, the oven, the faucets, and even the light switch covers. At 6:41 a.m. Lily texted me, "Is this a joke?" I replied, "Not yet." They thought I'd just disappear quietly, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. I was a woman who built her own kingdom, and I didn't need anyone's permission to tear it down. The locksmith came at 7:15 a.m. And by 7:30, the front door had a new handle, and it was mine again. Inside, the apartment was a bare skeleton. I took everything that was mine, including the couch, the bar stools, and the toilet paper holder from the guest bath. By 9 a.m. My phone was blowing up. My father called and said, "This is extreme. Be reasonable." My mother said, "We didn't think you'd mind. It's family." And Lily whined, "You're ruining my baby shower week." I didn't answer any of them. They didn't deserve an answer, they deserved consequences. While they were busy playing house with my life, I was quietly gathering evidence. I had all the documentation, bank statements, receipts, and rental history in my name. The transfer of ownership was forged under pressure and lies, and I had it all neatly organized in a digital folder labeled "Emergency Fire." At noon, my parents showed up at the apartment. My mother gasped when she saw the empty space. "Where is everything?" she shrieked. I tilted my head and said, "You mean my things?" My father's tone hardened. "We can fix this if you calm down." I laughed. Calm? I was as calm as a glacier, and glaciers may move slowly, but they crush everything in their path. "You forged a gift," I said. "Now you're getting the return policy." I got in my truck and drove away before they could say another word. This wasn't a tantrum, it was a transfer of power. I was starting to take back control, one switch at a time. By Monday, I was 3 steps ahead. I filed a formal dispute on the deed transfer, pointing out the forged signature and false statements. My lawyer friend, Alex, took one look at the documents and said, "They're not just unethical, they're sloppy." They'd put the wrong middle initial on the documents and backdated them without realizing I had GPS receipts proving I was out of state on the day they claimed I signed. By Tuesday, a temporary injunction froze the deed. The apartment was in limbo, just like their lies. That night, I posted a simple message in the family group chat: "If you're living in the apartment after Thursday, you'll be trespassing." Lily replied instantly, "You're blowing this out of proportion." "I'm pregnant." I stared at her message emotionlessly. Her pregnancy was suddenly a shield, but it hadn't been a concern when she accepted the stolen property with fake smiles. At midnight, I sent her a text, "You know that security camera you never noticed above the hallway mirror?" The typing stopped, and I knew she was finally realizing that I'd been documenting everything. The camera had caught my father handing over the deed and saying, "She won't fight back. She owes us." On Wednesday morning, my parents called to beg. "Please, this will ruin us," my mother whispered. We could lose the church board seat, the neighborhood committee. It was all about their reputation, not about the betrayal or the theft. I hung up without a word. On Thursday morning, the movers arrived with a court-approved eviction notice. Lily cried, my mother cursed, and my father paced like he still had options. But he didn't. Every lie they'd told was coming to an end. Lily screamed, "You can't do this. I'm pregnant." I looked her in the eye and said, "You weren't pregnant when you signed my name without consent." They didn't even deny it, they just begged. I stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching them pack their things. My father tried to plead with me, but I held up my hand. "Don't," I said. He paused and said, "We raised you." I nodded. "Exactly. You raised me to be quiet when hurt and to disappear when dismissed. You just never thought I'd learn how to use that silence." They were given 90 minutes to vacate. I stood outside as the neighbors peeked through their blinds. It wasn't a spectacle, it was a reckoning. At 10:57 a.m. Lily walked past me, carrying a diaper bag and nothing else. Her voice cracked as she said, "I hope you're happy." I didn't answer because it was never about happiness. It was about finally being heard. By 11 a.m. The locks were changed by court order. I stood in the doorway, looking at the empty shell of my former home. There was no shame, just clarity. Over the next few days, the family drama continued. My mother came to my new place on Saturday morning, holding a grocery bag. She said she wanted to talk about me, not the apartment. She sat on the couch, tracing the fabric, and said she missed me, that things had gotten out of hand. She blamed my father and said Lily didn't know better. She asked for a second chance. I sat across from her and said calmly, "You know what second chances require? The first one being respected." She flinched. I showed her the utility closet filled with all the documents related to the apartment. "This is how much trust costs, and I paid in full. You tried to bankrupt it." She left without finishing the tea, and I sat there in the silence, feeling whole for the first time in a long time. The whispers in the community started. People said I was tearing the family apart over an apartment, that Lily was pregnant. I didn't respond. Instead, I printed all the evidence and sent it to the family group chat. Once the truth was out, the silence became theirs. Uncle Dave messaged me, saying he was sorry and offering his help. It was amazing how quickly people apologized when they knew the whole story. I decided not to keep the apartment. There was too much history there. But before I let it go, I walked through each room one last time, documenting it. I wanted to remember what it was like to reclaim something stolen without losing myself. Lily texted me again, asking if I'd hired someone to take the washer and dryer. I just smiled. I'd reclaimed what was mine, no questions asked. I sent one last delivery to their new temporary address, a full-sized mirror with the baby shower photo taped to it and the words "Look who stole the wrong woman" written on it. Lily called and texted, still not understanding that this was about more than just property. It was about my identity. The apartment sold in 2 days at the full asking price. The new owner said it felt like peace, and I knew I'd made the right decision. I used the money to buy a smaller, simpler place, a place with sunlight, bookshelves, and locks that only I could open. Weeks passed, and I started sleeping well again. One day, I got an envelope in the mail. Inside was a crumpled baby shower photo with me circled in red and the words "You won." I laughed because it wasn't about winning, it was about ending the cycle. I didn't attend Lily's baby's birth. I sent a children's book, The Little Engine That Said No, with a note inside, "May she grow up knowing that saying no isn't cruel, it's power, and no one has the right to take her voice away." A week later, I walked past my old building. The curtains were new, and the door was freshly painted. A stranger's life was beginning where mine had ended, and I smiled. I'd finally learned that I didn't have to burn bridges to disappear. I could just stop showing up and let the silence speak for itself.